Good morning. Welcome listeners, viewers and online guests to this, our next session in our series of Safe to Trade presentations. I'm your host, Kelvin Wood, and also the certification body manager here at Safe to Trade with Shield Safety. This month, we continue our conversations and updates so we can provide you with all you need to know about Safe to Trade. We hope that you enjoyed today's session, and we thank you to those joining us today in our virtual online forum. After our short conversations, the guests will have the opportunity to answer some of your questions. So if you think you've got a question and that's you, then write your question into the comments box, and I'll try my best to put as many of those to our guests as we can today, time permitting. So speaking of guests, it's time to introduce who we've got today. Today, we are joined by Terri Munro, who's campaign manager at Shield Safety, who's the certification body for Safe to Trade. Morning, Terri.
Morning.
And we're also joined by Jake Harrison. Jake is Group Operations Manager at Hoburne Limited. Good morning, Jake.
Good morning.
Thank you both for joining us today. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Jake, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello. So I'm Jake. I'm the Group Operations Manager at Hoburne. Hoburne is a family-run company. It's been going since 1912. I've been part of that company for 9 years, nearly 9 years now. I come from a degree in physics and sports science, so not hospitality, but coming from Devon, you just you land in it, and I haven't gone anywhere since.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jake. And Terri, please introduce yourself to the viewers.
Hi, I'm Terri. I'm a marketing campaigns manager at Shield Safety. I've been working in marketing for around 7 years and for Shield Safety for about 1.5 years. I'm responsible for marketing communications and campaigns, content and delivery, as well as working alongside Safe to Trade and the food businesses that come on board to help them maximise their opportunities of their certification.
Wonderful. Thank you, Terri. And as always, I'm Kelvin Wood. I'm an environmental health practitioner with a history of service operators in hospitality as a food business operator, and then later in environmental health in public and private sector. And as I just said on opening, my current role is managing the certification activities for Safe to Trade with Shield Safety, the certification body for Safe to Trade. So now that's us all introduced, let's start with today's session. Today's session is a food business operators session for Safe to Trade, and we want to discuss getting the best out of Safe to Trade for members of the scheme. So we're going to concentrate on the advantages that Safe to Trade can offer your business, not only from a safety perspective, but from a marketing aspect too. So hence, Jake, you being here to be the food business operator's perspective on the scheme. Tell us a little bit about Hoburne, Jake, and why you felt Safe to Trade was a good decision or a good route for the business.
Yeah, so as I said, Hoburne's a family-run company. We've got 8 holiday parks and 3 golf courses. Out of those sites, 9 of them have F&B offerings. And we've gone through a few changes the last 2 years. So we had a new CEO came in. He's very passionate about food and beverage. So when he came in, he wanted to take food and beverage to the next level, the next step. So going from good to great. So he's looked at some of our venues and refurbished them. So we've just done Devon Bay, we've done Nation, Blue Anchor, and we're focusing on a few others at the moment. And then we looked at our uniform, so taking it the next step, so modernising it. We then also looked at our menu. So we've refurbed our menu, revamped it, made it that next level. So what was next? So it had to be the health and safety, about what we can do for the consumer, and Safe to Trade was a fantastic fit for that. We already used Shield Safety, and we used Safe to Trade during COVID. So it just fitted straight into place, and it's going for that best practice, that next level. And that's why we went for Safe to Trade.
Wonderful. And kind of getting involved at this early stage within the scheme, how do you think that's kind of giving you kind of any competitive advantage or any recognition?
It's great. I'd say for our team, it's that approval. So yes, you have a normal audit come in and you tick all those actions off. But actually, with Safe to Trade, you get that nice approval, you get that sticker, and it's like, actually, you've worked really hard and you achieved something. And then the consumer also sees that you've gone that extra mile. Because yes, we can all just do our normal basics, but we want to go, we don't want to be basic anymore. We don't want to be bland. We want to go, boom, here we are. And that's what we've done. And yeah, we've got on board early. We've learned a lot, which I'm sure we'll discuss later on. But yeah, it's been fantastic for us.
Wonderful, thank you. So Jake, you've been involved in Safe to Trade for just over a year now. So a number of your locations have just renewed their approval into year 2. So firstly, congratulations on
Thank
that.
you very much.
Please tell us a little bit about what the first year has been like with Safe to Trade. How's it landed in the business for yourself, for the colleagues, and for any of your customers as well who may have asked any questions?
So for our colleagues, it was a different step because, as I said, we had the normal audit that would come around and you just action the points off and sign them off. But actually with Safe to Trade, you've got to evidence it. Yeah. So with that, you've got to make sure you've got the pictures and the comments, and then it goes off and gets checked by yourselves and then come back. So that was a different learning step for a lot of our team because they weren't used to that. And we've had a few bits where we had to reissue some evidence and get that quite right. And we didn't get it quite right at the beginning. And we have now the second year round, it's a lot easier. We were getting approved a lot quicker because we've learned from that process, which I think is fantastic. I would love our next audits to be done like that as well. So that's good. And for our consumers, I think Terry's going to talk about the marketing and how we're going to push that going forward. Because for the first year, it's new to a lot of people. We've now added it to our menu, so people are asking that questions. And they'll start going on to the website and adding comments. So I'm looking forward to the future.
Wonderful, wonderful. And just to explain in a little bit more detail for the viewers who may not be overly familiar with the evidence verification aspect. So a huge part of Safe to Trade is verification of the closure of the requirement non-conformances for a food business operator to demonstrate that they've met the standard. So normal software features for certification bodies often have the ability to close off non-conformances within an audit. There's nothing really new there, but it's really a feature that's designed for the operator or for what we would call a primary contact within safety, for that customer to have reassurance that the location managers are managing their audit points. Shield or certification body have never really in the past been overly involved in verifying that information, short of going back the next audit and actually checking it has been done. So that real-time evidence requirement of closure of a non-conformance requirement with evidence has been quite a step and a challenge. So, but as yourself, Jake, as kind of primary contact with the safety responsibility, you must have actually enjoyed that because it kind of closes that doubt in your mind that your location managers are really, dare I say, dealing with the issue.
Yeah, definitely. So they're dealing with it. And also they're calling me up and asking for help because they didn't quite understand some of the points, which is great. And then you can support them and advise them. And then it's all ticked off. But it's great because we've had a few audits where a Safe Trade came in and about literally 2 weeks later, an EHO turns up. We have an inspection and boom, 5 stars, fantastic. And we've actually noticed that the audits with the EHO are a lot shorter than they used to be because we've just gone through the whole Safe to Trade process. So yeah, it's just verifying that it's a fantastic third-party insurance scheme, really.
Wonderful. So very much the FBO perspective here is that it's a much smoother journey with the regulator. And I'm sure if there's any regulators in the audience here that they might be kind of interested to see that the enforcement side of things and fulfilling the regulatory duty is also a lot more streamlined when you've got assurance that someone you're inspecting is part of Safe to Trade. So a little bit of a win-win there. Thanks, Jake. So one of the key elements, or dare I say prerequisites for Safe to Trade approval, is making sure that a business has a food hygiene rating of 3 or more. So for those in England, Wales, we're used to the kind of the rating system. 3 is generally satisfactory. So there's no real risk to health within the business. Obviously, there are different versions of the scheme in the devolved nations. We have the Hygiene Information Scheme in Scotland. and we have mandatory display in Wales too. So the kind of prerequisites of having a favourable food hygiene rating is baked into Safe to Trade. So whenever a local authority rates a premises below this, an investigation would be instigated by myself at the certification body to ensure that the scheme is not brought into disrepute by people who are approved on the scheme with a low food hygiene rating. Those clearly don't marry up. So the downgrade investigation process that we would follow at Shield Safety would involve monitoring a business at an in review stage while they go through the formal re-rate application, and only once they are re-rated by the local authority and achieve a 3 or higher, or pass in Scotland, would they be eligible to return to the register. So I just wanted to kind of drop that in there as a little bit of a message to the enforcement community on this, that Safe to Trade highlights and goes kind of a next step from a food hygiene rating. It's not a replacement for, and it's not to be seen as completely disparate to the hygiene scheme. So you mentioned, Jake, obviously with Safe to Trade approved at your locations, a very, very light touch in terms of enforcement, which obviously makes your life easier, but I'm sure your location managers have fed back how they felt about dealing with an enforcement officer, which can sometimes be a little bit intimidating.
Yes, it can be, but because now Safe to Trade is unannounced, they're not sure when you're turning up. They come in, and of course, it's very similar. So it's educating them, and it's that bit more. It's not extra practice, but you are seeing someone coming in and going through the same process. So, if, like with anything, with training, if you do it more and more often, you get better. So, the more audits we have, the more Safe to Trade type audits we have, it just makes it so much easier for when the EHA comes in and they understand what questions they're going to be asked. They're going to know where to go to, and it just makes everything so much easier and streamlined. Yes, we don't get it right every time. They will find things, but that's for us to improve on with humans. So.
Yeah, and with enforcement visits being, not as regular as a paid service like Safe to Trade, there is the possibility that an enforcement officer could turn up and it's your general manager or your park manager's first time encountering an enforcement officer for a rating visit. So having that 2, 3, 4 previous visits from a private sector Safe to Trade auditor would kind of give them that intended run through, so to speak, and demonstrate what kind of things are asked for.
Yeah, definitely. And you do ask to see our general manager as well. So they do get that the FaceTime, the contact time with an auditor, so they understand the questions they're going to get asked and understand what their responsibilities are. And part of what a Safe to Trade has taught us, actually, we put our general managers onto a level 3 hygiene course. So they got more experience and more understanding of it, which has helped, especially as this year we've seen it just so much easier to get. Not to get approved, but the process. We understand the process, so therefore we know which actions we've got to take, and therefore we know where our downsides are and our upsides are.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks, Jake. Let's bring Terri in. And so, Terri, tell us a little bit about some of the Safe to Trade brand messages that we are keen to communicate. Now, we've heard Jake's kind of FBO opinion on the scheme. What is some of the messages? I'll just excuse Jake from the screen. Thank you.
I've got some visuals associated with this as well. So our core vision at Safe to Trade is making our world a safer place to work, eat and play. And this is really emphasising on the fact that when businesses are Safe to Trade certified, they can be trusted and relied upon as safe premises for people to visit, but also for those working within them as well. And we believe safety and protecting people's health is ultimately the most important thing. And by being Safe to Trade, we're on a mission to do that along with the FBOs who achieve that status. Our core brand message is Love Safe Food, the name of this podcast as well. And this is really honing in on the fact that when you are in a safe environment and you're eating safe food, you ultimately love it more. And that's what that's trying to get out there, that when you feel safe, you're more relaxed, and when you're serving food that is safe, you can build trust with your team and trust with customers. Those customers will keep coming back more and more. And then our vision, as I've just said, making our world a safe place to eat, work and play. Our purpose of this is to protect people's health, because there's nothing more important. And the mission is driving an industry-wide food standard and health and safety standard that ensures people stay safe and businesses thrive. And why is this important for food businesses? It is ultimately to help their businesses thrive, because as we've just said, building more trust with customers that you are a safe premises with Safe to Trade means they'll keep coming back and giving you more custom. And the benefits of approval for FBOs: building that consumer confidence and trust, helping them to stand out from competition, driving customer loyalty, demonstrating due diligence with regulators, and allows the businesses to focus on what they do best by delivering amazing experiences. So as Jake said, he finds that the visits are shorter because they're Safe to Trade. So it just allows them more time to focus on what they do better when they're certified with Safe to Trade.
Wonderful. Thanks, Terri. I'm just thinking back, and some of our previous viewers of last month's session may find some of those messages resonate a little bit. If you think back to our vulnerable groups session last month, we had Elizabeth Draper on talking about, going out and making informed choices in restaurants, and sometimes feeling a little bit intimidated about creating a bit of a song and dance for the own vulnerable needs. So the fact that that is so key to the marketing messages should strike a chord there with the consumers. But let's welcome Jake back in, and I'm just curious, Jake, kind of what resonated with those brand messages there that Terri delivered. Did any of them kind of mirror Hoburne's brand messages, core values, or things with your customers?
Yeah, they do. So I'm just going to make sure I'm getting my values up, make sure we talk about them. So we always talk about a place of safety and security. So with Safe to Trade, trying to push that safety and all that food, being a safer place, the world a safer place to eat. And that's one of our values. And we're talking about our mission statement as well. I just make sure is all about engaging our team and allowing them to deliver exacting standards. So by putting that in place, that Safe to Trade will allow them to do better for our business and empowering them, and also creating a safe and attractive environment. So it sits with our mission statement and our values as well.
Wonderful. That's really good to hear. Thanks, Jake. So Terri, we talked about obviously theoretically a business has this audit, they demonstrate that they've met all the requirements of the Safe to Trade standard, and then we move over to kind of register statuses. So tell us a little bit about what happens next. Have you got a little video to show us there?
I do. So once a business is approved, they will appear on our register on the website, and this little video just shows how someone could search for you once you are listed on the website. So we've used Hoburne here as an example, and then you can see all the Hoburne sites that are approved, even those in review currently, and then you can click on a certain site and you'll see feedback there from consumers. They can rate how they're doing, an overall rating, but also type some feedback as well. And they're prompted to do this by QR codes on the various marketing materials that you'll receive in your marketing pack for Safe to Trade, which I don't know if we're going to talk about now or later, so I'll pause there.
Well, it's a great segue because we're moving straight into it. So obviously the register status is a huge driver for a business. It's that public-facing, consumer-facing demonstration that you are Safe to Trade, but there's also all the digital assets as well, which really maximize the marketing. So tell us a little bit about the marketing pack, please, Terri. Absolutely.
So there's a variety of things that you'll be given once you're approved from us, physical and digital. One of those being the window stickers. So these are stickers you can pop on obviously windows or different areas within your business. And on the other side, there's a QR code, which consumers are prompted to follow, and they will be taken to your site to review, like we just showed on the video. You'll also get a physical certificate. So this will show that you're approved. Again, that can be put up within your premises to, again, give assurance to consumers visiting. You'll also get a pack of digital assets, so different logos to use in various places. And some of those we are prompted here, such as on your menus. Again, you can drop the QR code within that as well. I know Jake and Hoburne have put it on their menus and it looks great. But you can also use these logos across your website, and we show within the marketing pack different ways in which you can list that to maximize visibility and encourage consumers that you are a safe place and take you to the Safe to Trade site as well. Again, with the digital assets, we encourage following us on socials, but also utilizing the logo within your own channels. Again, just encouraging more to consumers, but educating them as well. Advertising, the logo can be used on all of your advertising. We've just done a mock-up here as well, and also on your receipts is a good place to pop it as well. One thing that it kind of skipped by there is also PR opportunities. So part of my role within Shield as the certification body of Safe to Trade is working with certain sites to help maximise that they are approved through PR opportunities. So we'll work with you to draft PRs, get quotes from your site and our site, and share them with your local press as well as regional press. But yeah, that's it for me on that. You're muted, Kelvin.
Thank you, Terri. So being a consumer-led scheme, feedback is so fundamental to Safe to Trade. And as you saw there from the screens that Terri shared, the QR code does drive the consumer directly to the consumer feedback page, where they can rate things like cleanliness of the public areas, the toilets, the perceptions of safety within the premises, and give quite detailed feedback and different scoring metrics. I'm curious, Jake, how valuable is this feedback to you guys at Hoburne? What do you do with it once you receive it? And how is it kind of treated or handled any differently or similarly to things like TripAdvisor, where the consumers are used to giving feedback these days?
So we have lots of metrics within Hoburne. We use FIFO, use it a lot. We use it for our KPIs, and we use it for rewards and recognition within the team. So again, it's that extra level of feedback that we're going to get, so we can then deal with it, because sometimes we do miss things, and sometimes also got the positive where we can then say whether people can name a member of staff, a team member, and we can then give them some rewards and recognition, say, well done, fantastic job, because we always like that. We always like a name drop. And also, as I said, where we miss bits, and then we can deal with it, because sometimes we don't always see it. We might not have been in that day. We get days off, then we can pick it up, and then we can deal with it. We can talk to the team, so we can talk to the head chef, we can talk to the F&B manager. So we encourage it. We need it. And everybody's opinion is different. We're all different people, and sometimes we can see it from someone else's eyes. And then deal with it and make it better. Always about improving.
And for the benefit of the viewers who are not familiar with FIFO, what's that? Just describe that system a little bit.
So FIFO is it's very similar to TripAdvisor. But what you do is actually, when you come on site with us, we give you a reference. So you have to be an actual holidaymaker or an owner with us on site. So we know you actually stayed with us, and there's loads of different. You can give us feedback. It feeds straight into our website. Also gives you different areas to talk about our entertainment, our food, the quality of the service, the quality of the food as well. So it breaks it down into granular level for us. So we can delve really deep into that information. And as I said, we know you've actually been a customer with us as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Terri, from our perspective with the scheme, obviously the feedback is great for our customers and members of the scheme, but as a requirement to protect the integrity of Safe to Trade, we have to take this feedback a little bit more formally as well, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we receive feedback which is substantial and consistent, and we demonstrate that it is reliable, then again we would trigger a downgrade investigation. So customers that are listed as approved on the Safe to Trade register, need to stay approved and need to demonstrate that standards remain even within the audit cycle as well. So consumer feedback is so key, so that we can conduct a downgrade investigation should we receive ongoing and persistent low ratings or poor feedback. Now, because we host that information on our register, unlike something that's in the public domain like TripAdvisor, it does mean that businesses like Jake, you can't just go on straight away and answer that feedback, which must be a little bit frustrating. But we work with businesses to say, what is your right to reply? Have you had any feedback on the register yet, Jake? Has anything come through formally?
I looked a week ago and I didn't see anything.
Nothing just yet. But for those businesses that have had feedback, we would contact the customer's primary, create a response, put it out there on the register, and undertake our investigation within set timescales as well. And then 9 times out of 10, once the claims have been refuted, any kind of issues have been managed or mopped up by the business, then they're just replaced as approved on the register. And it's a really straightforward process. And it's that idea of the collaborative effort between the consumer, between the food business operators, the certification body of the scheme, and even the regulators as well. That is one of the hallmarks of Safe to Trade, while all stakeholders are working together. Okay, so Terri, why don't you tell us a little bit about some marketing activity that might be coming up on the horizon with Safe to Trade? Is there anything you want to discuss while we're just discussing general marketing of the scheme today?
Yeah, obviously we are in the early stages of launching the scheme, and it's very much in its infancy. So at the minute, it's all about brand awareness and getting our message out. So first of all is these webinar series, and each one is focused on a different stakeholder group, so we can educate FBOs and consumers. So we'll be doing these monthly for the rest of the year and for the years after that as well. But as well as that, we've also recently launched some free e-learning training on the standard. It's largely aimed at regulators, but we're encouraging FBOs to conduct this too. It's completely free.
Wow.
It takes around 2 hours to complete, and we will be dropping the link, if it hasn't been dropped in already, in the question box to follow. And that'll just, again, create more awareness and understanding of the scheme.
Vital CPD hours as well, there isn't there, for people who are required to do elements of food training to demonstrate CPD each year. So I'd strongly recommend that if you're a couple of hours short on your CPD requirements.
Yeah, we're also looking to do more events and in-person opportunities as well, to engage all of those stakeholders and educate them on the scheme. So I'd encourage everybody to follow us on our social channels. That's where we're going to be doing all of our announcements as well. And then we'll be inviting people to these face-to-face events that we've got upcoming. And we're also conducting some research at the minute. Shield Safety are, but part of Safe to Trade, we're just trying to get that out further, is on consumer perceptions of the current food hygiene rating scheme and the regularity of those visits. So it's really important we try and push that to as many people as possible, so we get the most valuable insights on that. So again, I think that link's been shared in the chat if everybody could complete that. But yeah, I think they're the main things. If everyone could just make sure they're following our socials, anything new that's coming out, we will be pushing it on there.
Wonderful. And just to kind of give a little bit more of a heads up about this free training that's offered, it's broken down into 2 modules. The first module is about Safe to Trade as a scheme. So you will learn all about the governance of the scheme, the rules, the protocol. But the second session is a food standards related session for EHPs, particularly in the UK, in England, where food standards is not often enforced during food hygiene visits. So it might be an opportunity to not only improve CPD, but improve awareness for something that maybe your consumer protection department may be handling at your authority. Because Safe to Trade is a UK-wide scheme, in Scotland, food standards is enforceable by environmental health officers. So it is a key fundamental part of the scheme. So there's some really good learnings there, and I really do encourage people to download and sit those training. Wonderful. Thank you, Terri. I will bring Will back to the stage because I think we have got the opportunity now to ask a few questions that have come in from the viewers. So we have a question here from Helen Atkinson. So thank you very much, Helen. Helen wants to know the benefits to the business in relation to improving customer compliance and reducing EHO inspection time. But what's the benefits to the consumer? How does the scheme gain trust with customers, as I don't think that consumers are aware of the Safe to Trade scheme? So what impact does it have on them? Do they understand the food hygiene? They do understand the food hygiene rating and recognise the relevance of that, as it's a well-established scheme. So thank you, Helen. There's a few things to kind of pick apart, I guess, with that. So let's unpack it a little bit. So Terri, I guess kind of brand awareness, as Helen was asking there. The scheme is relatively new and it's in its infancy. So short of kind of the logo appearing on doors and windows, how are we increasing brand awareness with consumers?
As we've said at the start, it's very much in its infancy, but the hope is as we get more food businesses on the scheme, it'll kind of self-promote in a way that the food hygiene rating scheme does. So they'll start to notice the sticker beside the scores on the doors as well, and start to see the awareness in that. It's not to replace the food hygiene rating scheme, it's merely to support it. We understand through research that consumers do value the food hygiene rating scheme, but there's things missing from that Safe to Trade just helps support. And as we grow the scheme with more food businesses, the hope is naturally consumers will see the sticker beside that, scan the QR code and learn more. But yeah, our main activity is to support the consumers via the food businesses. So that's why we're really keen to get the marketing pack out there, work with the food businesses to get the logo in as many places as possible, and through that educate the consumer. Later down the line, we might do bigger campaigns, but for now it's doing it via the food businesses where we can.
Wonderful. Thank you, Terri. And also as well, some of the stakeholder engagement groups that we've got are consumer involved. So we may have consumer champions from particular subject areas like allergen safety or new and expectant mothers group. So kind of driving the messages within those consumer groups as an ambassador for Safe to Trade. So lots of marketing activity to build that brand awareness directly from the scheme itself through the groups. But what about yourself, Jake? How have you've said customers have been asking questions. Have they said what's that when they see the logo on the menus that you've got printed?
Yeah, they do. They're intrigued, aren't we? We humans are intrigued by things, different things. So, and people do Google straight away. We've got our phones here. They ask what it is. We don't. If you go, just have a look, Google Safe to Trade, and they have a look on, they understand it. And it's going to get to that stage where, I don't want to say, but like Red Tractor, that you're looking for that extra stamp, and Safe to Trade is going to be that extra stamp. You're going to walk down the street and you're going to say, oh yeah, you've got a food hygiene rating of 5, and the next door has a food hygiene rating of 5. Oh, but they've done Safe to Trade. Oh, okay. And it makes you think, well, actually, where do I want to go now? Do I want to go in there? Because they've gone that extra step. I talk about this extra mile. But customers want to see you go in that extra step, extra miles. From COVID, they expect more. They do. They just expect more. So we have to keep going with that. And Safe to Trade is helping us at the moment do that with food.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jake. Another question here. We've got a question from Avinash Pandey. Thank you. Do councils endorse this scheme? Will it affect the nature of food premises inspections? Thank you very much for your question. So, and if individual local authorities do want to use a feed of the food business operators register, or they want to gain any insights from the scheme, then they can contact info@safetotrade.org.uk. We'll drop that in the notes as well for anyone who's watching on catch up. The scheme can't replace food premises inspections, nor do we want to. We're currently looking at the feasibility of establishing a national inspection plan for the scheme to help local authorities. So for those of you who are familiar with national inspection plans, great. For those of you who are not, it is a a tool used by authorities where you can direct the attention of the enforcement officer to certain areas because other areas traditionally inspected may have been validated elsewhere, therefore streamlining the intervention, not only for the food businesses, as Jake has already mentioned, but for the officers themselves, because we know time is such a precious resource at local authorities. So thank you for your question. I hope that answered.
Can
Have
I
we got any other
talk about
questions?
that?
Yes, go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, because it'd be really nice that in the HA can see that we've had safe to trade in, say, January, and then later in the year go, actually, I was going to go in February, but I'm going to wait a few months and come again later. So actually we benefit from it as they are looking at the register and going, they've been there. Why do I need to go in straight afterwards? Let's wait a few months. And we all gain from that. So our consumers will gain from that. So that's how I would love to see it working. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've probably got a little bit more of a collaborative piece to do with local authorities to kind of build those behaviours in. For businesses that have a primary authority partnership arrangement, a enforcement officer would search the primary authority register and check if that business has a primary authority before doing an inspection. We want to kind of create or mimic that behaviour for searching of safe to trade as well, so an officer knows if they're going in that this business is safe to trade before they've even set foot through the door, recognize the sticker, so they know kind of what they're in for, and you're just able to structure your working day a little bit better as well. So still a lot of work to do there as we build this brand recognition, etc., etc. Okay, so we've still got time for some more questions if we have anything coming in. I'm just looking through the chat to see if we've got anything. We are a little bit light, so I'll just flash up a couple of the messages there. We've got some marketing messages there to really promote this free training that we're offering. So we've got some information on screen there of where you can register for your e-learning courses. So thank you for that. And it is, again, in the chat, and it will be in the comments section when we publish this session for anybody watching on catch up. And also as well, just an extra kind of message to drive the feedback to. So we're looking for some responses to a survey that we've put out there on consumer perceptions of food hygiene inspections. And then just going back to our viewer question there, from the results we get there, we're able to kind of target our marketing activity a little bit finer to help build awareness of the brand with consumers based on that feedback. So very important, please promote that. If you could share that on LinkedIn, as Terry said, it would just help reach a wider audience. Thank you. Okay, well, if we don't have any more questions, I guess that is all that we have for today. So thank you again for our panel, Terry, for Jake. Thank you for joining us here today. Thank you also to our online guests who've joined us live in this forum. Thank you to anyone who is listening or viewing on Catch Up or via social media. We hope you'll join us next month for another consumer session on allergens in Allergy Awareness Month. But for now, that's all for today. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.